What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Fantasy Puck video. It's been a great month of October, and I cannot believe we're already halfway through week 4 of fantasy hockey. For those who live in Canada or are watching playoff baseball, it's been an amazing time to be a Toronto Blue Jays fan. I was lucky enough to go to a game on Saturday. Game 2 wasn't the best game to go to. I'm just returned tonight. The Jays face off game 4 of the World Series, but I digress. Let's talk fantasy hockey. In this video, I'm going to be talking about some players, and this was a comment left on the video, that maybe going to really high in ADP in preseason have been struggling out the gate. I'm going to be breaking down their numbers and what my personal panic level on these players will be. This is going to be a good video, guys, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. That honestly may have been the first time I talked about baseball on this channel, but let's go back to fantasy hockey and let's talk about some players that have been struggling out the gate and kind of what we're seeing from a numbers perspective and what I think my personal panic level will be. So starting this off, Zach Werenski of the Columbus Blue Jackets. And I tried to get guys within the top 100 ADP because those are guys that you had to use a little bit more of draft capital on. It's easy for me to say a guy you took 160 is ranked, 1,000 so far this season. So the reason why the rankings there is because and what I used was the Yahoo default scoring settings. It's really hard. It's relative based on leagues. And that's why I have that little squiggly line. If you can let me know in the comment section below what that line actually is. But it's kind of just a guesstimate in terms of rank. I went and looked at the FPPL leagues and just what the current rankings are. And again, tonight it is the 28th of October at 5:52 p.m. So Eastern time, and there's a lot of games tonight. So these are all subject to change. And knowing my luck, these are all going to change quite a bit. But let's start with Zach Werenski here. My current panic level is low right now. He was ADP 20, which going into the season was a little bit rich for me. And currently with FPPL rankings, he's at rank 156. So he's very well below his current ADP. But with the season he had last year, it really inflated his stats. I wasn't personally on Zach Werenski very heavily this season, but he's healthy, and the health was my biggest concern. So breaking down the numbers, I've taken into account the most important stats that factor into this player's points. So with Werenski, he's not really a big block or hit defenseman like another player you will see in this video. So let's talk about the bread and butter of what makes Zach Werenski a really good player and a really good fantasy asset. Goals, points, power play points, shots per 60, his shooting percentage, and his average time on ice. So as you can see here, a lot of red on the screen. The goals are down, the points per game are down, the power play points per game are down. The shooting rate is the exact same, just a small drop off in average time on ice, and that shooting percentage is quite a bit lower than what we saw last year. Now, the points and the power play points kind of go hand in hand here with the Columbus Blue Jackets and with Zach Werenski. Once those power play points come back and regress back to the mean, it's more than likely that those points will come up. Now, I don't know if he can replicate the amazing season that he had last year, but the really positive side and the biggest difference we saw from Zach Werenski last year, aside from health, was that shooting rate, the shots per 60 was at a very, very high clip. He almost eclipsed 300 shots last year. Now, 8.3 isn't as dazzling as what we see with a lot of those high-end shooters, but you have to keep in mind that those are typically forwards that played 19, 20 minutes, where Zach Werenski is maintaining an 8.3 shot per 60 rate while playing 26 minutes per night. So my panic level right now isn't too high. I don't know if he will be an 81-point player like we saw last year, but I would say in the 70 to 75 range is definitely still in the cards for Zach Werenski. It's just a matter of him picking up that power play point production. Sean Monahan's back in the lineup. Marchenko has been very good to start the season. This power play has been really good to start the season. So I think things will inevitably turn around for Zach Werenski. So I would not be panicking or trying to sell low on Zach Werenski by any means. The minutes are still extremely high. The shot rate's good. And that shooting percentage will likely come back up to about 5 or 6%. It's really difficult for defensemen to have like a 7, 8, 9% shooting percentage just because of where the shots are coming from on the ice. But still, I love the upside from Werenski for the rest of the season. There's no reason to panic on him. And I'm just trying out a little new style of videos. I'm trying to keep it a little bit creative in terms of what you're seeing on the screen. And hopefully you like this. And let me know some comments below how you think I could improve on this. So with Evan Bouchard here, the second, like he was like the third or fourth big name defenseman going middle of the second round in a lot of drafts, ADP 20. He's currently ranked 116, which definitely isn't as far off from his ADP as Werenski and as some other players on this list will be. So the big thing here here with Evan Bouchard is the point rate is down significantly, but the power play point rate is still pretty good. He's managed to raise his shot rate slightly, and he's playing the highest minutes of his career at 24.09. If you're a Connor McDavid owner in fantasy right now, it's been a little bit frustrating. I'm knowing my luck, he's going to score a couple goals tonight, but with this Edmonton Oilers team, they always are off to a slow start, and then they end up having an extremely good third half, extremely good. It's lost 75% of the season. So definitely no panic on Evan Bouchard. We know what we're going to get out of him. 65 plus points, like 25 plus points in the power play, a lot of shots, a good amount of blocks. And I don't think there's any reason to panic. That shooting percentage is down slightly. That will eventually come up as he begins to get some of those better power play looks. The point rate has cut in half completely, but Bouchard over the last, I would say 150 to 200 games has been able to sustain a really elite point rate. So that is eventually going to come back. But the positive sign here right now is that power play point production is still pretty solid relative to last year at 0.3 power play points per game for players that are very reliant on power play point production. The biggest worry is, are they going to be off the power play? And I don't think there is any reason or any secondary option better than Evan Bouchard on that top power play unit. He has done it in a regular season. He did it in playoffs. So there is no need to panic here. That shot rate going up is actually a pretty good sign given his minutes have gone up. So his actual shots per game should be increasing right now. And the goal rate, the goals overall in the season are going to be increasing because of that. So low panic rate on Evan Bouchard. No need to sell on him. The Oilers are always off to a slow start. This is going to be your core and top defenseman in most leagues, so there is no reason to panic. So there will be a couple of Tampa Bay Lightning players on this list, and to start it off, it's going to be Brayden Point. My panic level, again, is going to be relatively low for Brayden Point, a guy that was taken at the end of the second round, early third round, has done it time and time again, has been that elite number one center. In some leagues, contingent on where you're drafting, but still, he has been that 40-plus goal scorer, elite power play point production player, but is off to a relatively slow start to start the season. And again, panic level low. So ADP for Brayden Point went into the season 24.2, current rank 179, a huge difference from where you drafted him. And you're probably looking at your lineup every week and it's like, why can't he figure it out? And I'm feeling the same way with a lot of my Tampa Bay Lightning players. So I have the stats up here. So last season, the Tampa Bay Lightning had a league leading 3.53 goals per 60, number one in the league. And right now they have a 2.42 goals per 60, rank 21 in the league. So their goal scoring as a team is down significantly right now. But last year and the prior years have shown how good this team is offensively. And it's a matter of time again until they regress back to the mean. So for Brayden Point here, that goal rate, everything is currently down. The goal rate's down quite a bit right now, 1 goal per 60. The point rate is just slightly down. He is still putting up a few assists. The power play point production is down slightly. No need to panic on that. The biggest indicator right now is that shot per 60 rate is very low. We want to see that back up at 7+ per 60. If it continues to remain really low, you don't really get that full value that you've had in the past from Brayden Point, who has been that dominant goal scoring presence. But the big thing here too is look at that shooting percentage, minus 10.4% from last year's total at 22.2%. He's about a career average 17-18% shooter. I know it's a lot of people think that's an unsustainable stat, myself included, but there are some players that really sustain this high shooting percentage. So again, this is going to regress back to the mean. He just needs to continue to shoot at a higher rate than 5.9 per 60. The minutes are relatively the same from what we saw last year. The deployment is the same as what we saw last year. We did have a slight injury to Nikita Kucherov, it was an illness, I think, where he missed a couple of games earlier in the season, which obviously would hurt their power play and just offensive production as a team. But no real panic for me from Brayden Point, who has done it time and time again. The only thing you need to monitor is just that the shots per 60 rate. Below 6 is a little bit of a concern for me, but not a big enough concern relative to what Point has done in the past to make a medium or high level panic. So for right now, it's going to be low panic on Brayden Point. You don't want to be selling low on him. This is a guy that's a staple in your offense to produce goals and power play points at an elite level. So we have the first medium panic level player in Artemi Panarin of the New York Rangers. I honestly think the New York Rangers as a whole are I thought they would be so much better this year. They added JT Miller, former 100-point player. Their a lot of players on their team were dealing with, some sort of small injury or just like not producing at the level that everyone has hoped. They got rid of Keandre Miller, which didn't seem to be any major concern to me. No Vincent Trocheck does hurt them slightly, but they are currently ranked 29th in the league for goals for. If I'm not mistaken, they didn't score at home in their first 2 games, something like that. So a little bit of a concern from this entire Rangers team. That's putting the panic level for me at medium for Artemi Panarin. So he was drafted 27th overall by ADP, currently ranked 135. But there are some positive indicators for Panarin right now. So as you can see on the right, a lot of red. The goal scoring's cut in half. The points per game are way down. The power play points are down. The shot rate's down. But the shooting percentage is 8.7% lower than what we saw last year. Quite a bit lower than what we saw 2 years ago. But the good indication here, aside from the shooting percentage being down and likely being able to regress back to the mean, is his average time on ice is at the highest point of his career, 21 minutes and 12 seconds, a plus 1 minute and 25-second increase from last year. So the shot rate will decrease a little bit if he just stays on par with last season because the minutes are going up. So there's no real crazy panic for Artemi Panarin. It's just this Rangers team as a whole that is not scoring goals, is not scoring power play goals right now. Lafreniere has not panned out to the player that everyone really hoped he would be, me included. But hopefully if this Rangers team can start finding a little bit of a scoring touch, maybe in November, things can turn around. I think Panarin will be able to pay off value. I can't see him finishing at that 27 ADP by the time season ends, maybe at 40 to 50 in some leagues. It's contingent on your league. So he's going to not really produce the value that you were hoping for and the high floor that you were hoping for. But maybe things will turn around if this Rangers team can continue to figure out their goal scoring. There is no way he ends the season at a 7% shooting percentage. So that's going to come up. He's still playing those massive minutes, top line, top power play. So my panic level is medium, basically because of the Rangers, but it could be low to medium right now for Artemi Panarin. So Mackenzie Weegar doesn't have the biggest difference between ADP and rank on this list, but it's still extremely high. And for me right now, my panic level for Weegar is at medium. Now, I talked about a bit earlier how I wanted to include the core stats of the players. So for Mackenzie Weegar, blocks, shots, hits, that's where he gets a lot of his really good fantasy points and why he's drafted so high, because he has an extremely high floor year after year. But as you can see on the right side here, there's a lot of red, and it's kind of similar to the Panarin thing where the Calgary Flames are very bad to start the season, to the point where Dustin Wolf had to come out and say, I'm doing my job. I can't score goals. This team needs to figure it out. And it seems like they've been changing their power play quite a bit. I don't think it's Weegar there today. It might be Zane Parekh right now going into the game against Toronto tonight. So we'll see how that works out. They've been really changing things around there. But they do have Jonathan Huberdeau back, which should be a decent spark to the offense. Not a major, but a decent spark to that offense to hopefully help this team turn things around. Now, Weegar isn't that 20 goal scorer we saw a couple of years ago. He had a really strong goal rate last year, but his point rate's down, the shots are down, the blocks are down, the hits are just slightly down, the power play points per game are down, and the average time on ice is up slightly at 32 seconds above what last year's rate was. So my panic level is medium because this team can't really score goals. My biggest surprise here is that block and shot rate are both down. I think maybe because he hasn't been playing as much power play and probably because the Flames are defending a lot right now. But you got to think with them defending, the block rate goes up, shots come down. Hits kind of remain the same in that sense. So I don't think it's major panic right now because the hit rate's still good. The blocks are still strong. It's just that shot rate has declined quite a bit this season, which means his goal rate's going to likely decline. Not getting power play time kind of sparks a little bit more panic than I initially thought when he was going into the season, kind of knowing that there was a chance he wouldn't be on the top power play unit. But it's positive to see that the average time on ice this year has gone up a little bit. Hopefully we get to see 25 plus minutes. I think he will regress back to the mean in terms of his peripherals, but I don't know if he'll still be that strong, medium to strong point getting and goal scoring defenseman like we've seen in the past. The Flames have a lot of work, and we may see a coaching change in the next little bit that could kind of spark some offense. But without them playing good hockey right now, the entire Flames team as a whole, I can't see Weegar really outperforming this ADP significantly. He's been a top 20 guy over the last couple of seasons, but I can't see him make a massive dent in that gap between the 47 ADP and rank 228. He will still likely finish as a top 50, maybe top 75 player this season. So I still like Weegar quite a bit. A really good buy low target in my opinion, especially because his peripheral numbers are just so strong. So hopefully we see a little bit of a bounce back from this Flames team and Mackenzie Weegar. And for right now, my panic level is medium. Brandon Hagel is the next player on this list. I mentioned there was going to be a couple of Tampa Bay Lightning players, and Hagel is the other player on this list other than Braden Point. So a massive difference. ADP 56, rank number 35 right now. Panic level for me is medium. So again, a lot of red on the right side, but there are some indicators to kind of show why this is happening slightly. The shot rate has sustained. The goal rate is way down. The point rate is down. The power play point rate is down. But the shooting percentage is down nearly it is 11.1% right now. One of the biggest differences in shooting percentage from last year to this year for guys that have actually scored goals this season. So for Brandon Hagel, the panic level is medium. The shooting percentage is not going to stay at 4.3%. So it's a matter of time before he starts to score and this entire Tampa Bay Lightning team begins to score. My small concern is that his minutes went from 2045 to 19 money sign 1. It should be 1941. So about 1 minute and 4 second drop off from last season. So the minutes are down slightly. The thing with Hagel in the past is he's had a ton of success at 5-on-5, has never really been that big power play producing player, which is a good sign because he's not reliant on those big power play points to the point where he gets taken off the power play and then his point production just drops off a complete cliff, which we'll see in the next player in this video. I'm sure you can guess who the next player is going to be for this video. But the point rate's down. I think everything will kind of begin to turn around. I don't know if he'll still be that point per game or above point per game player like we saw last year and the year before, but still will probably sit in that 70 to 80 point range. So definitely not really overly significant panic for me from Brandon Hagel. He's just a medium for me right now. I think he's a very good buy low target with that massive drop off in shooting percentage year over year. The shot rate hasn't really changed at all. I mean, the decrease in average time on ice means the shooting rate should go up if he sustains from last year. But it's not a crazy difference at 0.2 shots per 60. So he's still getting those offensive opportunities. They just haven't really scored goals as a Tampa Bay Lightning team as a whole, making them almost the entire team a completely buy low right now. So medium level panic for Brandon Hagel. Did you guess who it was going to be? If you listened to the Hagel bit, you probably guessed who the player was that gets influenced by lack of power play opportunity impacting their points per 60. So Theodore should be a high, but because the Stone injury at LTIR, which is about 4 months early than we should. I probably shouldn't joke about that, but still. So I don't know why I pretended to check a watch there, but with Shea Theodore, it would be high if he wasn't on power play 1 right now with the Mark Stone injury. So for right now, I'm going to leave his panic level at medium. He was ADP 68. He was the first defenseman I took in the FPPL. Yeah. Rank 236 right now. So has yet to score a goal this season. The points are way down. No power play points. The shot rate has remained the same from last year. Obviously, shooting percentage is down. But the good thing we're seeing here is the average time on ice has gone up with the injury to Alex Pietrangelo to 24:01, the highest of his career. So I'm hoping to see a little bit more out of Shea Theodore. Now, me drafting him as the first defenseman in the FPPL didn't mean I think he was going to be that point per game player, but I didn't think he'd be this bad not being on the power play. But it's good news that he is now moved back on the top power play unit for as long as Mark Stone is out. Hopefully he gets a couple power play points tonight as I'm recording. This is likely what happens with me with my little FP boost to some players when I talk about them. So hopefully we get to see some power play points tonight. But the shot rate, it's remained the same. The shooting percentage is at 0%, but the minutes are up. So there are some positive indicators from Shea Theodore right now, at least in the short to medium term with Mark Stone out. We'll see on the top power play unit hopefully begins to put some points up like we've seen over the last couple of years. He's at the lowest point rate of his entire career by a lot right now. So I can see this beginning to turn around. Vegas has been scoring a ton of goals too. Like they've been one of the best offensive teams, if not the best in hockey right now. So it's crazy to me to see Shea Theodore struggling this much. But hopefully things begin to turn around for Theodore. I don't think he will end up as a ranked 68 player, but should fall in the top 100 as the season continues to progress. But This shows the impact of players getting taken off power play 1 and how it impacts their points per game. So hopefully we can see a little bit of a turnaround from Shea Theodore. So the last player on this list, again, I just wanted to go through the top 100 and just see who the biggest differences were, as well as just what a lot of people are talking about. So Nikolaj Ehlers here is the only panic level high player for me right now, ADP 85. Rank 390. It has not been a good start for Nikolaj Ehlers, but there's still some positive indicators here. So he has yet to score a goal yet, which is gravely concerning for a guy he's not really an elite goal scorer, but he's definitely above average in that 25 to 29 range. I don't think he's ever scored 30 in his career. The points per 60 are way down. He has not put up a power play point this season. The shot rate is still very strong. Obviously, shooting percentage way down, but the good indicator is the minutes are up to 1743. Now, this may be a case of the difference in systems from Winnipeg to Carolina, where Winnipeg used him in a much more offensive role, where Carolina plays a defensive structured game and doesn't really complement high offensive players. You kind of just got to learn the system and, maybe pick up some power play points. But he's still playing top power play, so they're giving him that opportunity. He's still playing top 6 minutes. The minutes are high for Nikolaj Ehlers, where we saw him in Winnipeg. There were never really crazy minutes. We knew he wasn't going to be that 20+ minute per game player because they don't really do that with many offensive players for them. Like Nate just going over to the Colorado Avalanche, you knew he was going to play huge minutes going into the season because that's what they do with their top 6. So with Nikolaj Ehlers here, the good indicator is the shot rate is relatively on par with last year. The shooting percentage is way down because he hasn't scored a goal this season. But still, even if he were to score 1 or 2 goals tonight, it's still going to be a big difference. So he's a great buy low right now. But I am a little bit concerned with the deploy, or just kind of him fitting into that Carolina Hurricanes system right now. So the goals per 60, they're going to come up. The points per 60 is going to come up. The power play points per game is going to increase. So he's definitely due for a lot of positive regression. It's just getting to the point where it's like we're 10 games into the season. He's yet to score a goal. How good could the next 72 games be? But then also the side of it where Ehlers is notorious for getting injured. And with him not producing through the first 10 games and an inevitable injury coming where he could miss 2-3 weeks, for example, that's going to hurt his value quite a bit. So you really hope when he's playing and when he's healthy, he can produce those offensive points, because when he's hurt, he's very hurting your team. So that's kind of my take on Nikolaj Ehlers here. Panic level high for him right now. It could be a medium to high. And I think Chris had him as a buy low target, and I agree fully. Just keep in mind that he is an injury prone player, and for him to not be producing through the first 10 healthy games he's had kind of worries me about where the potential injury will lie later in the season if it does happen. That will do it for the video, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like and let me know some players in the comment section below that you may want me to cover in future videos. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.